Bring in New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez, the ranking member on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He joins me now. Senator, good to see you.
Good to see you, Jose.
Thank you. Ahead of this hearing, how do we balance our new policy with what we're going to hear from dissidents on the Hill this morning who would not be able to say what they're going to say in D.C. back in Cuba?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing they have to come to the United States to speak freely without concern of being arrested for their views, to express themselves. But that's the reality of Castro's Cuba. And I think the focus of today's hearing is going to be, what did the Cuban people get out of this deal? What new openings for human rights, civil rights, democratic openings, free expression exist as a result of the agreement? And I think the answers to those are pretty clear based upon the fact that not only were some of the 53 who were released subsequently rearrested, but over 50 human rights activists and political dissidents were arrested on December 31st as they try to come together in Revolution Square simply to talk about their vision for a new Cuba, about their vision.
So, Senator, the other side, of course, of that discussion would be that for 54 years, nothing changed in Cuba, with the embargo being in place, with people saying that it's not beneficial for the United States to deal with that regime. 56 years have been exactly the same. Maybe it's time to try something new, and maybe by hearing the American voice and by letting the Americans have a seat at the table, things could change when they didn't change for 56 years.
Well, the first thing I'd say to that is for that same period of time, for 50 some odd years, the European Union, Canada, Latin America, and a whole host of other countries have engaged Cuba, and the Castro regime has not opened up, has not become more democratic. If anything, it has become more repressive. What it has allowed is enormous amounts of monies to flow to a regime to continue its security apparatus that represses its people. Because in Cuba, everything that we see owned privately in the United States is owned or co-owned by the Castro regime, particularly the military. So all of that engagement has only fueled money for the military to ultimately repress its own people. And lastly, based upon the regime's latest statements, for example, I was reading the press account today that said, Raul Castro said, there can be no normalization if we don't stop helping human rights activists and political dissidents inside of Cuba. We don't accept that from any country, any place in the world. I don't know why we accept it as it relates to Cuba.
And, Senator, on the subject of Iran, you, along with 9 other Democrats, sent a letter to the White House giving the president more time on sanctions, yet you've clearly been very critical of the administration on this issue. What changed?
Well, look, there are now 12 members who have signed that letter, and the reality is what changed is we just simply wanted to give the administration the time that it asked for. It said that it would have a framework agreement by March the 24th. So we are ready to withhold until March 24th. The legislation is poised to move forward if in March 24th there is no agreement. The Banking Committee, in a strong bipartisan vote of 18-4, already released the committee, released the bill to the floor, and so we'll wait to see till the end of March whether or not an agreement can be had, an agreement that we can all support. If so, then the sanctions will be unnecessary. If not, then we need to move forward to be able to be in a position to make sure that Iran doesn't march towards nuclear weapons.
Senator Menendez, thank you for being with me this morning. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.